Good morning, encouragers. Welcome back to encouragHER Community Podcast. We are here this morning to continue our series called What's God Up To? This month, you've heard from Lucille, and you've also heard from Sue, two very different stories, and yet the same God at work. He's always working. So we just love to hear stories of how God is working in different people's lives at different stages and seasons. And we can't wait for today's What's God Up To? Today's a little bit of a special one because we have two guests with us. This morning we have Lin Murray and Lorraine Stuart. And I wanted to just share before I offer the floor to them and have them share what God is up to in their life, my reasoning for just thinking through having them on as guests. I feel like God has shown me something he is up to in culture right now. And we know that one of the biggest generations are the baby boomers. The greatest generation, the biggest generation, they have many names. These baby boomers are now in a season often of caretaking. And we're going to find out what I mean by that today. But I just noticed this a lot. I hear a lot of women who are taking care of their parents. And they went from, maybe being taken care of themselves as a child to now taking care of their parents. And it just brings its own challenges and joys, beauty and burden. And it just seems that a lot of women are finding themselves in this season. So I thought of Lin and Lorraine because I've heard this from them as well. They are very much in this season. So we're going to hear a little bit about what God is doing through that. First, how about Lin, if you want to introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about what God is up to.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Lin or Linda. Go by both. The season actually started for me back really in 2005 because I was still in Indianapolis, but I was home for the holidays and getting ready to go back to Indianapolis. And my mom, this was January 2005, was going to have breast cancer surgery. No, excuse me, lung cancer surgery, and metastasized from the breast to her lung. And so we were talking, and all of a sudden, God just said something to me. It's time for you to come home. And I was like, oh. I went, okay. I just said, okay. I told my mom, I'll be coming home. It just came out of nowhere. And so knowing that, I started putting the wheels into place and started thinking about what are the steps I need to do. I told my mom it won't be like next year. It took me about 2.5 years because I wanted to be vested with the city of Indianapolis because that's who I was working for at the time, and then go through the process of I had 9 rooms of furniture in my little townhome that I had. So what am I going to do with that? What am I going to sell? Am I going to keep it or whatever? And so in all that to say, in 2007 of July, that's when I moved back here. So it took me 2.5 years to do that, and didn't know why. God told me. I was like, okay. Didn't know. Had no idea. But he wants me back here for a reason. Not sure what it was, and started going back. Went back to school. Got my master's. Started teaching classes here because I was teaching at the Y in Indianapolis. Started doing it here, and doing other things. Had a job. Was offered a job in Trenton with the business administrator there. Who worked under the mayor. Well, that didn't pan out because you got to go Google the story on the mayor at that time. But didn't think I was going to be living with my parents. It's been 15.5 years now, and I'm still there. Then things started. So you see slowly but surely, you see the kind of like the deterioration of your parents, and more. I think more with my dad than my mom. My dad is early stages of dementia, and I would see things or hear things. I'm like, what's that about? And all of a sudden I'm like, oh. So I had to start looking into that. And, and I printed out something that said that, talked about the stages of dementia, and just knowing that, okay, well, this is why I'm here. And it's funny, I don't know how I got this card, this little business card. And it talks about today, let there be peace within me, trusting that God has planted me right where I am meant to be. Can't remember where I got it from, but I kept it on my mirror because I'm like, that's why God planted me here for this reason, for this season of my life. Wow. And that's off of verse, Psalm 138:8. And so it's been wow, it's been a journey, to say the least, because sometimes I get really sad and I don't know why. And you and I talked about that one time. And you said, well, Lynn, you're in grieving. And I'm like, I didn't realize I was doing that. I didn't realize that I was grieving. Grieving, seeing my parents, it's hard to see them and live with them, seeing them getting older. And sometimes it could be a little bit of a joke. Because, you look at my dad, I'm looking at him going, is his chest going up and down? I mean, seriously, and because when he sleeps, he goes into a deep sleep, And so I'm just looking, I'm like, oh, okay, he's still breathing. I'm like, okay, good. And, he's had a couple of falls. One time he wanted to go for a walk. And, that was cool. But he fell. He fell outside. He wasn't too far away. Thank God he knew where he was. So a guy was passing by and picked him up and drove him to the house. And I said, hey, Dad, how you doing? And then all of a sudden I see all this blood on him. So I'm taking him back to the family room. He falls again. This time he fell and hit his head right, like right above the eyebrow here. And so I told my mom, I called 911 and, and got that process in place. Everything was, fine. We took him to the hospital, the emergency came. And so it's just things like that, I just had to, you have to put God, at the control. And sometimes that's hard because you want to do this, you want to do that. And I'm like, and you can't do it. You can't be all to everybody. You just can't. So, yeah, it's a journey. It really is. I'm sure you know too.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
And it's so nice having you guys here together.
Yes.
Because I think that's the whole goal. Is like, you're not alone, right? If you're experiencing this in this season, there's so many of you in this season. And I'm hoping that you'll find comfort in that, knowing that it can feel lonely and sad. And yet there's a many in the same boat.
Because you do feel like you're on your own island by yourself. So
Thank you for sharing that, Lynn. What about you, Lorraine?
I'm going to start off a little differently. I was married in 1975, had my 2 children after, years later. And then they grew up, they went to school, college, married, and they're gone. And now my husband's retired. And I'm thinking, wow, we've got stuff to do, places to go, things to do. My dad passed away in 2013, and I have 3 sisters. One passed away 2 years ago, but at the time she was living with my mother. So we had the peace that every day my sister Linda was there with my mom. She wasn't alone. My sister decided to move out because she had been with my mother for quite some time. She took her out to lunch, and my mom was looking at something on the ceiling, got dizzy, fell, hit her head, got to the hospital. It's the same. It's like that time. So my sister Loretta and I were in the emergency room, and we were waiting for her to have her MRI. And I looked at her and I said, you know what? If Mom comes out of here okay, I'm taking her home. We're done.
Wow.
Because I live in Mount Laurel. My mom lived in Hamilton Township, and it was back and forth and back and forth. Who's watching her? Who's over there? Who's cleaning? Whatever. So she got out of the emergency room, and I said, Mom, you're coming home with me. She said, tonight? I said, yep. So I jumped on the highway and brought her to my home. I did have an extra bedroom because Mary had moved out and got married. And my journey began there. I told my husband, okay, I didn't even ask him, but I said, Mom's coming up. she's staying with us. Go get her stuff. So we slowly emptied her house out. She was not very happy. That was her space. Those were her things, her treasures. I have one room for her. Yeah. And so that was, I think, the toughest part. Her own ShopRite, her pharmacy, her friends, her family, her area. And I took her down here to Mount Laurel. So I think it was a little hard on her. Two Italian women in the kitchen is not fair. You know, she wants to cook. She's always thinking about cooking. I'm thinking now at this point in my life, we're going to go to Lee's, get a hoagie. We're going to get pizza. I'm done with the cooking. I did that, you know? So, it's not a conflict, but it's like, so over the past, she's been living with me. She's 93. She's been living with me for maybe 8 years. Over the past year, God has revealed to me the future where she's getting older. She has neuropathy in her feet. Something might happen. I worry about her. If I go to the store, are you okay? You know, what's happening? Yeah. My other two sisters are wonderful, but one lives in Doylestown, the other one's in Hopewell. So they're not readily like quick, I can quick call them. Right. So I do, you know, worry about her nonstop. She has fallen several times, but she has Mark on speed dial, my husband, and he goes in and he picks her up and all, but it's a worry. But God is showing me the future of her needs. It might be bad. It might be the way we are now, which is okay. He's also showing me the present, what I have to do to take care of her right now. The doctor's appointments, the finances, that just goes on. It's just on and on. I love her dearly, and I bring her breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day upstairs. I should be skinny, but I'm not. So anyway, we need to talk about that later. So, but he also showed me the past. I had best childhood that anyone could ever have. I could write a book. I could write a book where my mom took us to school. We went to Joseph Stokes Memorial School in Trenton. There was no school bus. There was no cafeteria. So she drove us there every day, every single day, and picked us up at lunch, brought us home to a hot lunch, brought us back to school, picked us up again. It was like 4 times a day until I was in, I don't know, 5th grade or something, and we moved. Her playing with my long hair, her kissing me, my dad saying, you know how much I love you? I love you 2 times twice. The jokes, the parents dancing in the kitchen, the love and the laughter. So he showed me the past to show me, you can do this, you know, and there are times where I'm angry and I'm sad and I'm having a pity party because other people are doing things, and my sisters maybe have a weekend and I have my mom, and I'm thinking, why can't I do that? But then I think about what God is showing to me and revealing to me that you're fine, you're happy, you've got it all. You've got, you know, thousands of blessings right here where you are. Don't look elsewhere. Don't go outside of this home and spin things out of control that are not true, because that's where the enemy is trying to say to me, you don't have enough.
That smells like the
poor
enemy.
You. And exactly. So I love her dearly, and yes, it's a lot of work, but my reward is in heaven as yours is, and we are honoring and serving the Lord like we are supposed to.
Wow. Yeah, so incredible. I was just thinking as you're talking, I'm glad you said the word serving, because I feel like it's a ministry.
Sure.
Right? All the ways we love people are opportunities to minister to them, but it's really a ministry. I mean, it's a selfless, encompassing, like all-encompassing ministry that you don't get to walk away from. So I hear the tire, I hear it must be hard.
Yeah.
Would you describe it as like a beautiful burden? Would you describe it, is there beauty in this season? You're like the sweetness you're talking about. You know, sometimes their seasons can be really hard, but God, like he's doing with you, it sounds like revealing
Yeah.
things through the hard.
But the thing is, and I don't know if Linda will agree,
Yeah.
the serving is what we didn't choose. We didn't choose to serve our parents. I didn't know that this was going to happen.
Right. You didn't
And
pursue it.
We didn't,
Yeah.
we weren't, it wasn't my goal to say, wow, as soon as Linda moves out, I'm taking mom in.
Right.
It was something I thought, I'm the oldest of 4 daughters, but I always felt responsible and I always took care of them, always. And that was my goal, unspoken, you're moving in with me, you know, and, but it wasn't something that I thought, this is what I want to do in my lifetime,
Yeah.
kind of a thing,
Wasn't
right?
planned.
Yeah.
It wasn't a plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's funny how you mentioned, you know, how God said, you know, this is what you should be doing, because I thought that too. Those things, those feelings. I'm like, why, God? Why is this going on? You know, I should be out, you know, with friends and doing this and doing that, and at times I do. Now I have to say, my parents are 90, and for the most part, they're kind of semi-independent. Okay, I mean, scary. My dad still drives. Scary. I pray every day when he comes out. Like, Lord, please bring him back and carry him in mind.
Wow.
I mean, you know, but my mom is like, you know, his wingman. You're like, turn here, go watch the car stop. You know, I'm like, okay. So if we go any place, you know, like long distance, I do the driving.
Right,
Okay,
right.
we went down to Delaware, you know, because my aunt, she was turning 87, so I did the driving down there. And my dad says to me on the way, you know, Linda, you are a really good driver.
Oh.
And it's not like it's like the first time he's driven with me, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, Dad, it's been probably a couple years now. But anyway, it's God told me too. Look how your life was growing up. They took care of you when you were sick, you know, and things happened. I never forget when I knocked my front tooth out. I was 16 years old, and I went home, and my dad hadn't gone. You know, he was getting ready to leave for work, and I went. He's like, I fell off my bike. You know, that's a whole nother story. That's why my nickname was Grace growing up, because I had none. But that, you know, and so he had to, you know, take me to the doctor. I mean, we went to a dentist that was up in East Brunswick, New Jersey. Now that's not close.
No.
No.
So, you know, so he, you know, he did that. I mean, it was, so I had to, says, look how your life was growing up, you know, and I had 2 parents in the house, you know, some people
I
didn't
did
have
too.
that,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
and they were had hard times, and I saw them
Yes.
stick through it,
Yeah.
you know, through the muck and the mire and all that other nonsense that would come with 2 individuals, you know, who aren't perfect,
Yeah.
you know, and I just think about that, and I'm like, yeah, Lord, you know, you're right. You're right. So this is my season right now, my time to do it. And yeah, do I go out with friends every now and then? Yeah, I do. Yeah, I go to a movie, you know, or go out to eat or whatever. Go over, you know, a friend's house. So it's it's challenging. Yeah, it can be challenging at times. But you know, when I come home from work, and like last night, they were like, "Oh, man, we're so glad you came home. You're safe and all that." And I'm like, you know, and I think about that, like when they're gone, who is going to say that to me? You know, so
Right.
yeah.
Right.
So I think about that too.
It's the sweetness.
Yeah.
That's in their eyes. They have that sweetness.
Just
Like when
that
I'm like,
love.
when I'm like, oh my gosh, one more meal, give me your dirty dishes. Then I think, you know, and she's just sweet. I mean, you know, there she is. I'm like, okay,
And
ready
my
to
mom-
serve.
And my mom still cooks,
Oh my.
Wow.
and that's good
Yeah.
because it helps, you know,
Yes.
with the thinking. They
Yes.
need, you know,
Oh,
to
yeah.
do that. I mean, we got my dad needed a new office chair, so my mom bought him one from Amazon. Didn't realize there's going to be 20,000 pieces to it.
Oh.
So me and my mom were in the family room, and they put it together.
Wow.
And I didn't bother. I'm like, that's what needs to happen.
That's perfect.
Good.
Yep.
And they put it together.
Wow.
I said I had to make sure it didn't fall apart.
Yep.
Test it. Yeah. Sit on
Test
it.
it out.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I feel as though, like I've told you before too, when you mentioned sadness, it does sound like grieving to me, where you're almost in the beginning stages or somewhere in the midst of accepting their age, right? And you're seeing things that remind you of their age often. It sounds
Yeah.
like some dramatic, some not so dramatic, some funny, some really concerning.
Right.
but you're almost like, God is so good in
Right.
allowing you to see those things. I feel like he's
Right.
helping you process. You both said the word future
Mhm.
a couple of times.
Yeah.
Like he's loving you in that way to help you process what's coming.
Yes.
Right? The
Yes.
inevitable.
Yes.
Yeah.
The inevitable
Yes.
for all of us,
Yeah.
you know?
And also, I see sadness. My mom misses my dad.
Aw.
My mom has been taken away from everything she ever knew.
Yeah.
So I try, it's hard to replace that, but I try to replace that as well, you know, and in my busyness, I have to remember to just not open the door, give her food and shut the door. And she's happy. She loves being with me. She loves her room. She does her crafts and watches her movies. We just got Pure Flicks and oh my
Awesome.
goodness, she just loves, and she sits sideways and watches it on her little iPad because it's not on TV yet, or I can't get it on the TV. But it's sad for them as well because they're not where they want to be either. And we have to remember that too. It's not about us.
Yeah.
Also, it's a joint relationship.
Yeah, and it's a joint grieving,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Like
Right.
there is something that they're grieving in their own way too. The end of life
Yeah,
beginnings kind of thing.
absolutely.
Just a lot.
There's a lot going on.
I love how you're both able to reflect on like the childhood you were given through these like imperfect people, right?
Mm-hmm.
No parents are perfect. And that's such beauty and joy that you can look back on that and then give forward, like pay it forward kind of idea.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking of the woman right now who, you know, might not have had a great childhood and yet is caretaking for parents that maybe weren't there for her.
Yeah.
And are there any words of encouragement you could think of to that woman who she's in it just like you guys, and yet she doesn't have those beautiful memories? What would you say to her? And I'm throwing that question at you, but I'm just thinking of her like, that's so great and wonderful, but that's not my story, and yet here I am.
Right. I would say to her that our purpose to serve the Lord is not to question him and to do it because you want to, because your heart wants to, and because you're serving him, you're pleasing him.
Awesome.
He's smiling down at you. He's happy with you. It's like singing a joyful song to him, and whatever you can do to please the Lord, you're doing. And even though you could have a horrific childhood, like you said, but you look at that person that you're caring for, and you're doing it for Jesus. You're doing it for him. And what more could we possibly do then? And what more gratitude could we give, and blessing can we give him to serve? He loves everyone. He loves the ugly. And if you have the ugly situation, then you're going to rise above it, and you're going to say, you know what, Lord, I love you. I want to honor you, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it with a big open heart and a pleasing heart for you.
Awesome.
That's just not me.
I love that. Yeah.
I mean, I think also, and I agree with Lorraine, but I think also that you need to, because sometimes if I get impatient and get angry, you know, it's like, okay, God, help me. Help me change. Help me change to whatever, you know, to the circumstance and the reaction that I have, because I can't change them.
Right.
Okay. But change me and how I react to a certain situation, you know, wherever it could be. And that could be where this person is.
That's beautiful.
But also it's don't take the past and having, because, you know, nothing is ever smooth, even when you're growing up. Don't take the past and cling to it. You got to forgive. So if you have
that's the word, forgive.
So if you have, you know, anything that's you're holding on to that you remember your parents said to you or did to you or whatever, you got to let that go.
Good one.
Beautiful.
You got to let that go. And I'm telling you, I've had to do that. Maybe more than once. You know, had to do it. So that way, because they're not perfect. I'm not perfect. You know, the only perfect being is God.
That's right.
And that's who you have to go to. You have to go to him and just say, Lord, I'm sorry. And I've gone, you know, to, you know, like my mom and said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I said that. I'm sorry I snapped at you.
Right.
You know,
Beautiful.
because it wasn't right, because the Lord said, "What did you just say?" I'm like, I know.
Convicted you.
Sorry.
Immediately.
No, it's like, okay,
Right.
cool, all righty. And he puts it on my heart,
Of course.
Yeah.
to go back
Yes.
and say something to your mom.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's really
so-
beautiful. To carrying that unforgiveness, that's something I hadn't thought of. That's
Yeah.
really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
And just doing it for his sake,
Mhm.
right? For
Right,
his glory,
right.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
For his glory.
yeah.
Less about the person, more about God,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Right.
And less about the circumstance. We know that's very easy to say right
Right,
now,
right.
but in your moment, right?
Right, right.
Yeah, looking at your posture. My last thought or question for you ladies is, because we could talk all day, I feel like, about this
Yeah.
and share
Mhm.
stories, and
Yeah.
that would be really fun. You had said impatient, that sometimes you feel like you snap, as you said, or be impatient.
Mhm.
As we kind of close, is there anything that God has taught you through this? Maybe about yourself, like you said, or about him, or about how he loves people? Anything just kind of lingering that you haven't said that maybe you've learned through this? I feel like God uses all things, right, to continue to make us more like his son. How has he used this, or how is he using this?
I think with me, time,
Mm.
reflection, because I could just under my breath go, more than once, and then I have to like think about it later and say, that wasn't good. Just like, or I'll read something, or I'm like, oh, this is good. And same thing, I just ask the Lord just to forgive me, and because it's a struggle having your parents to take care of. It's a responsibility.
Yeah.
They're not just, and my mom's fabulous as far as she gets dressed, she takes her medicine, she does all her stuff at 93.
Wow.
But it's a responsibility. So that's another responsibility. So then I'm thinking, how do you do this
Yeah.
again? I can yell at the girls and say, clean your room up, make your bed, and all that. I can't do that with my mom. I have to literally go in and say, do you want this blanket or that? But it takes a lot of patience.
Yeah.
And a lot of repentance, and a lot of asking the Lord to like, oh, help me,
Awesome.
which is almost on a daily basis.
Wow.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not perfect, and my childhood was wonderful, but growing up, same thing. I did I do this right? Did he say this right?
Yeah.
It's just
Relationships.
right? Exactly.
Mhm.
And like I said, there were 4 daughters. Like, how come she got to do this and I didn't do that? How come I have to vacuum and she's riding her bike,
Right.
and it's a buildup of resentment, and it continues. Like, how come you go away and I have mom, and
Yeah.
I'm not stuck with her? I want her with me.
Yeah.
How come
But the enemy would love to mess all that up
and
in
he
your
does.
heart.
He just, and that's what happens
Mhm.
with that your question. He
Yeah.
just gets in and
Tries to mess it up.
tries to muddle through, and you just have to say, no, you're not doing this.
That's right.
And you have to get in the word, and you have to just ask for forgiveness, and just move on
Yeah. And remember
to the
God.
next day.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So good. Any
Yeah.
last thoughts?
Well, you gotta start in the morning, and most times I do this, and sometimes when I don't do it, I'm like, oh, okay, that's a problem that I'm having, is start being with God in the morning.
Mm.
And having that morning time. Now, that's where you start. I mean, you go through the whole day trying to focus.
Yeah.
And that's why I love the app on the phone,
Mm.
because I can go to something and go, okay,
Wherever you are.
yeah, and read. But starting there helps, and there are times I said, Lord, help me, I need the fruit of the Spirit, because right now, do I have any more of them right now?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's when you really feel like
Yeah.
a vessel, right? Like,
Yes.
I can't do this. You're gonna have to come into me
Right.
and help me be patient right
And
now.
you have 2 parents.
Yeah.
I mean, my husband is, I have to say, maintenance free. I have my mom, but you have double of what I have to
Yeah.
be responsible for and to care for, and that's a lot.
yeah, well, telling them about, the phone. There are so many, it's crazy, because I get it on my phone, scammers. And so
Mm.
they have, they have the caller ID, and then we have, the phone that has voicemail on it. I said, okay, if you don't recognize that number,
Oh my God.
don't pick up.
Mhm.
I said, if you're not sure about it, don't worry. If they leave a message, it'll come.
Yes.
Mhm.
If they don't, you know this is the person.
Yep.
But I may have to say that about
20 times.
20 times.
I knew what you were going to say.
So I mean, but that's has to be said.
And that's the life, right?
Yeah.
It's that.
Right.
And my mom sometimes wants to run to the phone all the time. I'm like, I said, Mom, okay, if the TV wasn't on, I couldn't see caller ID. I said, but you still have the voicemail. She says, so I know you can't, you may not be able to see, the phone number on the phone. I mean, half the time I can't see the phone number on the phone. I need my glasses. But I said, just wait. I mean, if it's my brother lives in Mount Laurel. This is his wife, and I'm saying if it's not Billy, his name will come up, Niecy's name will come up.
Yeah.
People's name will come up that you will know.
Yeah.
So it's like, she's got to answer the phone. I'm like, okay.
It's their generation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my mom wants me to food shop because we're going to be out of food.
I'm doing food shopping.
So it's
But I
dealing with
mean,
all those
We're
layers of their
dealing
life.
with exactly
You know,
the
food shopping,
starvation.
yeah.
We didn't have enough food, or we have to have 20 cans of tuna fish. I'm like, Mom, it's going to go on sale again, and it's just
Aw.
these are things that we
Yeah.
have to deal with, things that they grew up with as
Yeah.
well, right?
Right.
Yeah, and in so many ways, it almost feels like I hear women all say, it's like your life is not your own, right? In a sense,
Right.
and you both admit you get times of your own
Of course,
time.
of
You know,
course.
God is providing
Yes.
moments of fun,
Yes.
joy, and all the way through.
Yes.
But there's so much that is not.
Yeah.
It's out of your
I do all the
control.
cleaning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it snows, but
Yeah.
my mom, she has this past winter has gotten somebody to shovel. But I think because one time it was wet snow. We have a 60-foot drive.
Oh, wow.
So by the time I got back in the house, I was like, see ya. I'm going back in my room. I'm laying down right now.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
But but I can still do those things, and
Yes.
I do all I do the heavy cleaning.
Yeah.
I do all the dusting. I
Sure.
do the wash the floors and
Right.
and do the bathrooms, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I do the food shopping. And I told my mom we got to do twice a week because that once a month shopping, I said, is killing me
Mhm.
because I'm dragging around, and I always get the shopping cart with the wheel that doesn't work. And it doesn't turn. So one time I'm going through Walmart in front of the shopping cart, dragging it behind
Oh
me
man,
because I couldn't push it.
that's so.
And I'm like,
relatable.
okay. And it was like, it was like 50 pounds,
Yes.
So it's like,
Because we're going to starve to death because there's no other stores
No
in
other
a
stores to be
5-mile area. Right.
Yeah.
Well, I love that we can laugh, right?
Yes,
Like
yeah,
that
we
God
can.
gave you guys both
Yes, we can.
moments where we can laugh about these things that will help
Definitely.
you get through too, right?
Yes.
The humor helps.
Yes.
Yeah, most definitely.
Most
Yes.
definitely.
Yeah.
Well, ladies, I first want to thank Lorraine and Lynn for being here, taking
Yeah.
their time. They're both busy ladies, but just really appreciate their time. And, I just want to remind those listening that we just have 2 stories here, but there are so many women in our community and our surrounding community that are in this season. So reach out. You're not alone. We're here as an encouragHER community to encourage you. And in the show notes, you'll see my email. You can email me if you'd like to get in touch with either Lorraine or Lynn. They're more than willing to talk to you, just connect, laugh, maybe share a crazy story of your caretaking. Whatever that looks like, we're here for you. You're not alone, and God is good.
That's good.
Yeah, he's good.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for being with us, and we will see you again next Monday with another What's God Up To story. Happy Monday.